Keep your goals. Should have clear goals, right? If it is keep for a customer, I'm assuming that you're talking about any organization which has a large customer base, or they got to be, while they have to be customer centric, they got to be employee focused as well. Because please understand, without happy employees, getting to great customer service would not be possible. Rather than a threat, it is more of artificial intelligence technologies should be viewed as an ally.
Hello, tech enthusiasts. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Mobile App Daily. Today, we have a distinguished guest with us, Aditya, who is the helm of the solutions consulting practice for Genesys India. With a remarkable career dedicated to customer experience, AI, machine learning, and cloud technologies, Aditya has played a pivotal role in the successful launch of Genesys Cloud in India. Having collaborated with major institutions and organizations, his insights into the fusion of technology and customer experience are unparalleled. We're thrilled to have him here. And so thank you, Aditya, for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Tanvi. Thanks for asking, and thank you for hosting me today. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
It's a pleasure is all ours. Let's first start with how has your role in Genesys been and how has your journey been so far? What is exactly your role at Genesys?
Right. As you shared, I lead the solution consultancy practice for Genesys in India, for India and the neighboring countries. As a solution consultant, my role is to help organizations achieve their customer experience objectives. That is, so I try and support these organizations improve on their customer interactions, make it much more seamless, make it much more a positive experience. So that's the mission that I undertake. As a leader, I coach and mentor a group of amazing solution consultants who share the same mission with me. The journey so far at Genesys has been amazing. It's been 5 years plus for me. The great part is that the leadership team in Genesys is equally focused both on customer and employees. And the result of that is that for 9 years straight, we have been the leaders in Gartner Magic Quadrant. And for 9 years, we have been certified as Great Place to Work. So there's no better place than here for me right now. And I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
Oh, that's amazing. So we also read that in 2021, Genesys launched its cloud capabilities in India. How has that adoption been within Indian companies?
Right. So for Genesys, India has been one of the fastest growing cloud regions in APAC. Since its launch, which was in 21, we have witnessed double and triple digit growth ever since that. In FY23, our revenues increased by triple digit figures. So you can imagine the kind of, the uptake that we have had with the cloud services in India. And that has come on the back of multiple factors. First, we got to understand that the Indian organizations are going through a massive transformation themselves. And as a country, our cloud adoption rate is much higher than any other country in the world right now. Now, we also are witnessing the same in the industries that we are working with, whether it is the BPOs, the e-com players, or the fintechs and the health techs of the country. And we have been able to support, and we have now have a diverse range of customers, which include top BPOs, top e-com players, large fintech and large edutech organizations which are subscribing to these services. Now, to further support and strengthen this adoption, we are strengthening our partner ecosystem, which at this point of time contributes to almost 85% of total cloud revenues for us in India.
Wow. So how would you say who are your primary competitors when it comes to this entire business?
Right. To talk about in India, Genesys has the only solution provider which has been able to provide an enterprise-grade native cloud in-country setup for CCaaS solution. Right. Genesys has been the only one. And when we launched in FY21, we made it to be the first global customer experience platform to provide to the Indian customers the scalability, reliability, and flexibility, which wasn't available earlier. So that is where it is. We are the only one who's in the space to provide all this currently in the country.
Okay, so you would say that you're not just ahead, you're like, you don't have a competition in a way?
We are pretty much ahead, is what I would say. And all those, if we tick mark all those parameters of, then currently we stand alone.
Wow, that's really commendable. So let's boil down to a little bit about artificial intelligence. So how has AI adoption impacted the contact center industry?
So so it has impacted very positively, right? Artificial intelligence has been adopted, has been consumed by the industry, the contact center industry. And in a recent study that we conducted from the adopters of artificial intelligence, we have witnessed that most of these who have adopted artificial intelligence are seeing an increase in the customer satisfaction. They're seeing an increase in customer loyalty. They are witnessing an increase in first call resolution. Now, first call resolution is basically the number of times a customer calls you for the first time and his query, his problem get resolved in the first call itself. And that's a very important parameter for customer satisfaction. And those who have adopted AI are seeing a tremendous increase in those numbers. And it's just not that on those levels, but if we start talking about the productivity, they're seeing higher agent productivity, lower iterations of the agent turnovers, and the revenue per agent has been growing. So these are the things which the industry is witnessing. Now, when we start to kind of further investigate, we see that, artificial intelligence is being adopted not only at the customer experience part, not for the customer side, but for the agent experience as well. Now, for the customer experience, it is being primarily used to identify the user. It has been to predict why the person may have called or may have reached out to us, to provide self-service, automation, and this all we would provide by solutions such as chatbots, voice bots, sentiment analysis, and so on and so forth. On the other part of this is the agent experience, right? Now, for any interaction to happen, there's of course a consumer, and that has to be supported by an agent. Right. Now, agent experience is equally important. There, we see, and we have been working to provide solutions which are based on artificial intelligence, which help for better processes and better tools, such as for workforce enablement and management, which allows for better agent assistance and quality assurance and analytics, forecasting, scheduling. So to be able to schedule and forecast the right number of agents or people who will be required to attend or manage those calls. So this all is again AI powered system. So we are working on both sides of the paradigm to support a better experience. Further, with Genesys Cloud, what we aim to achieve is to combine conversational AI, agent assistance, predictive routing, predictive engagement into a single solution. So we're not talking about different disparate solutions coming together, but as a single solution is what we are looking at. And further, now the buzzword is of course Gen AI, generative AI. It is such a buzzword that if you start searching for AI, the first response is for a generative AI solution. Now with that coming in, of course, it has opened up much more expanses of what can be achieved. And that is where Genesys is focusing on. We are working on, how do we further improve on language processing and analytics. And we are working with the organizations to further improve their experiences by smarter automation and, personalization and optimizations.
Wow, that's really amazing. And these are really important use cases. But let's dig a little deeper. So when exactly did Genesys begin adopting AI into its products and services?
Right. So we started doing that very early on. So AI is a buzzword right now, but I can recall more than a decade ago, or more than 1.5 decade ago as well. Almost 2 decades, Genesys started supporting, automatic speech recognition systems and text-to-speech systems, which basically meant that you could converse with another system. So that was the earlier avatar of conversational AI. So we started supporting that. We have had customers who have been utilizing these technologies since the time that I can remember, almost from the beginning of my career, literally. Now, but Genesys never viewed AI as only as an add-on, right? It was just not an add-on technology which we are trying to position and put forth. It is very much a central piece of our offering. And when we say it is part of our central piece of our offering, we have built solutions around artificial intelligence to consume it and to provide for various solutions on top of it. So moving away from just conventional systems, which has been conversational bots, we've tried to look which all places can we utilize artificial intelligence in a positive manner. The places where it wasn't possible to achieve, those objectives weren't possible to achieve. So we've been able to build solutions on various aspects of contact center operations. We have built predictive routing, predictive engagement. We have utilized artificial intelligence for quality assurance, quality management, workforce engagement management, and so on. So this has been the mainstay for the same. Now, again, on generative AI, we have been building now solutions on top of generative AI, which again wouldn't have been possible with the conventional AI technologies. The latest one, if I may, has been an agent summarization tool, agent interaction summarization tool. So what usually used to happen, Tanvi, is that once the call used to get finished or interaction used to get finished, the agent would have to summarize the interaction for record purposes, right? And they would, after the interaction has happened, they would write the entire notes of what transpired between the customer and the agent, and then they would put that as notes. So what we have done is we've used generative AI technology to consume and listen in or read in real time what is being exchanged and build a summary note on top of it. And then that goes as records. So that was something which was possible with solutions of generative AI, which would generate the content based on the data which is available.
Wow, that's again very, very impressive. So since we are here on the topic of AI, and as you've just said that AI is now everybody's talking about AI basically today. So what do you think? Will we ever see a future where AI is going to replace all human agents, or most of them?
So, despite the advancement of artificial intelligence, of what it is going through, I don't believe that the human intelligence or human emotional intelligence can be replaced by an artificial intelligence system. Right. I personally believe that rather than a threat, it is more of artificial intelligence technologies should be viewed as an ally. And I'll elaborate on the same. So right now, just for an agent, right, when somebody calls in and they have a query, the agent has to look through the various information set to come to a right response. And usually this information set is disparate. It could be based on knowledge articles which are someplace, a database somewhere, or some other data somewhere, right? That's how usually is. Imagine how difficult it is for an agent to respond at the right time, keeping average handling time, the time that he's spending on that interaction to be minimal, to be able to respond correctly to the customer, to ensure that the feedback is right as well. So you see, NPS, AHT, everything gets impacted. And this guy is trying to struggle between all of that. Now with artificial intelligence system, you could have a system such as Agent Assist, which would hear in real time, which hears in real time what the customer is looking for and actually locates the right piece of information to be shared. And it shares with the agent. It's for the agent to choose whether that's the right information to be shared, and then he or she can make the decision to share it or not share it. But it makes it so much simpler and easier for that agent. So you've got AI-powered, let's say, agent assist system. Mm-hmm. Now, further, for this particular agent, when there is parameters such as adherence, and they have to be, if there are any gaps in their delivery and so on and so forth, how do they improve on it? with such a large workforce, it's not possible for a supervisor to manage and guide them every time, and that impacts their performances. Now imagine an AI-based coaching system which understands where the gaps were, understands where the challenges were, and actually comes up with the guidance on how to improve it as well. So, AI-based coaching system, right, which can give you real-time insights and also guide you. Further, the biggest challenge for the agents are, having the same queries being answered, which they have to answer all the time. And this is just probably a database search or quick one, which they have to do. And it doesn't require, human intelligence as such. But they are pushed into this mundane kind of responses. With a simple automation system, which could take away these entire tasks, these agents would actually have those queries which merit their intelligence, which merit a human intelligence, where there is a need of empathy, which obviously is something which artificial intelligence system is incapable of delivering. To understand and listen and give that human touch, that will be only possible in those interactions, only those interactions coming for them. Even their experiences get better rather than answering that, right? Similarly, further, it gets kind of in this world, in this age where where people are, we're talking about virtual offices, we're talking about work from homes and so on and so forth. It gets pretty mundane, to work in these environments. And imagine an element of a game in it, a gamification in it, where whatever you do, you get badges for it. You've got tasks that you've got to finish on a day, and you've got a leadership board coming on, If you can imagine that entire work turns into a big game where whatever you're doing, you're earning points for it and so on and so forth, it suddenly becomes much more fun. It becomes, the employees get motivated and so on and so forth, right? That is what we are trying to achieve with AI systems. So whatever I talk to you about is something that we're already supporting in our platform, a much more engaging place for our agents.
Wow. So, as they say, that technology is a great servant, but not a good master. Yes.
True.
Going ahead. So, what's next frontier to be scaled within CX technology?
So up till now, we have been too much customer centric, right? We have looked at solving the customer problem. That's been the focus of the organization and the industry, that let's try and fix the customer problem. But I think now is the time when I expect industry to start looking at the EX part, or the employee experience part as well. And that I say because the lines between customer experience and employee experiences are gonna blur. They're gonna be convergence of these two aspects. It is most important, and many organizations are realizing that as well, that without having a great employee experience, it will be hard to deliver a good customer experience, right? Whatever I talked to you about in the earlier part, if everything of that is available, right, where there is an automation, that means the customers are getting addressed for their requirements, and for the cases where they need a human touch, they come into an agent. Now, in such a system, both the customer and the employees are in a win-win situation, because an employee is much more, focused on answering the query which he or she knows that wasn't possible by AI, and that needs his or her touch, right? So suddenly, if you would see that entire differentiation will move away. That is one thing that I feel is going to be the next frontier for the organizations, to blur that. The second one, and which is something very close to my heart and which Genesys propagates a lot, is about ethical and efficient use of generative AI solution. Now, while we've been talking a lot on generative AI, and I'm sure somebody like you have been researching a lot, you're a data scientist by profession, correct?
Yes.
Right. So for somebody like you would have already gone through this entire challenges, where we have seen that generative AI is, in the current form, is also plagued by biases. If you would remember, there have been enough and more examples where there is I'll not name the solution, but the image building solution which created certain biases when they were looking to develop certain professions and so on and so forth, right? Similarly, there is such inherent biases which get magnified with use of generative AI that everybody understands. That is something that we've got to be wary of, especially for customer experience. Because in customer experience, there is an expectation of the customers which has to be provided for, and the biases or the training, if it is incorrect, if the privacy is not respected, then there could be major challenges. That's why that's the next frontier that the organization should look at: how to ethically utilize generative AI and how to efficiently use AI solutions.
Wow, so that's actually, I think, very essential because anytime somebody starts talking about AI, they immediately get triggered about the consequences of potential negative consequences.
True, true. So we got to be careful on how we consume this technology. I mean, at the end of the day, AI is a tool. We must understand that, right? And the benefit of or the result of the tool is in the hands that bears it, right? And that's why it becomes extremely important on how we consume this technology. If we have built enough railroads into this, and that's why when it comes to generative AI, we make it on principles of privacy and ethical usage and transparency, and that's what Genesis has been propagating, and that's why we are very thorough when we start utilizing when we start working on the use cases where AI solutions can be utilized actually.
Okay, that's very, very insightful. So let's go on to the next segment. So in the last decade, we saw a massive surge in contact center operations in India. How is that trend looking in 2024 and beyond that?
Right. So definitely, India is the outsourcing capital of the world, right? We have been looked upon to provide the best of the services, and that is just not on the basis of being a cost-effective destination. It is also comes on the fact that we have a very large pool of highly educated and technically qualified people. That's what is driving that trend. Now, if you were to look at entirely on where are we looking in 2024 and going beyond, let me just share some numbers with you. Right now, the total install base or total number of agents in the country is more than 1.2 million. Okay, and 55% of those are actually at BPO, and the remaining are at captive. When I say captive, those are organizations which are directly providing services to the end customer, right? Now, that's the current one. And within that, if you will see, 90% of the total install base is using on-premise systems, which are legacy systems, right? And since they're legacy systems, there is inherent challenges attached to the same. Now, add the first part that we discussed about the cloud adoption in the country. Now, if you're looking at cloud adoption to be as high as that, so we're looking at this large number of install base which are currently on premise, which would essentially move into cloud because of the inherent capabilities of cloud, scalability, flexibility, security, and so on. And suddenly you have all those large pool of resources, large pool of install base which are up for migration and further movement. Now, apart from that, close to about 120K worth of fresh agents get added or new businesses get added into the entire time. So putting it all together, it makes a pretty good space to be operating in India right now. We're pretty bullish on the market, and we foresee that this trend to just continue for a foreseeable future. And the government has been extremely supportive on the outsourcing industry, right? They've offered tax benefits, and during the COVID times as well, and even after that, the entire part of work from home agents and so on, support for that. I think that has come at a very a due time, and with that support coming in, I think the industry is bound to grow further.
Okay, let's see how much it grows, but I'm sure it'll grow a lot. So, moving on. So, how did Genesis pioneer experience as a service? Also, could you shed some light on what exactly it is?
Right. So you got to understand that there's a new generation of customers and employees who are expecting a lot from the organizations, right? Now, we recognize that there's a major change in the customer expectations and the expectations of the employees, and we started building on this vision, which was to drive empathy in every interaction by orchestrating personalized and end-to-end experience within and beyond contact center. And that is how we pioneered for experience as a service. Now, to break it down further and explain what it is all about is that as a customer, you have choices of multiple channels to reach to, let's say, your service provider or the brand that you engage with, right? Similarly, as a customer, you have multiple options of service provider and brands as well to make your choices from, right? But what is it that defines that choice for you? It's the experience that is attached to a brand or a service provider, right? Now, what as a customer you expect is to have a great experience where you're recognized as Tanvi. Tanvi should be recognized as Tanvi, and you should be able to get the same level of service whether you are on a WhatsApp or a phone call, email, WhatsApp, chat, wherever, right? The objective is when you come, you should be handled, you should be understood, and your queries or whatever that you're requiring should be resolved, right? Now, while it is easier said, it is, if you would look in the entire gamut, you've got all these different channels, right? You've got so many customers which an organization needs to understand, predict, listen, and then come to the conclusion of supporting you, right? Now, this was such a difficult task, and that is what we started working on, saying, you know what, we will have to drive what we call as experience orchestration, where we will orchestrate the entire experience right from the beginning till the end, every aspect of it. And agents are within a part of that one. This is what we have come to driving, and we have been building on this vision. Every part of our solution is dedicated for the same. How do we drive empathy in every interaction, every experience? That is what we are trying to achieve. Again, multiple interactions. We would want to remove this gaps of whether you get a great experience on a phone call versus a chat versus a WhatsApp. There should be a unified, great experience across the board, right? And when the customer interacts, their experience should be great. You should be able to deliver empathy at scale. That is what the motto and the vision is under experience as a service, and that is what we are trying to fulfill as a mission.
Okay, that's actually, I think the culture is something that speaks for the product itself.
True, it is. In fact, in 2019, when our CEO, Ms. Tony Bates, had shared with us or launched this vision, there were, if somebody had doubts, then they can't exist at this point of time, because we are seeing the transformation right now, right? We were ahead of the curve by saying, you know what, in 2019, that experience is that change factor, or orchestrating factor, or the differentiator. And I see at this point of time in so many discussions that everybody talks about experience economy now. That wasn't the case back in 2019. So we were much ahead of the curve in understanding and predicting where the industry is going and how we need to address it. And I think we have done quite well to build on solutions which could help address those requirements.
Okay, so all the solutions that you've built and all the products that are built at Genesys, so how do they compare to the different or the similar tools that are there in the market?
Right. Again, Tanvi, what we got to understand is that when you talk about a contact center, it's just not one product or one solution. There are multiple solutions which come into play. You've got, basic contact center solution, you've got recording, you've got quality management, you've got workforce management solutions, you've got analytics on top of it, and so on and so forth. Usually in a contact center, this is an amalgamation of various solutions put together, right? But Genesys is an all-in-one comprehensive platform which delivers all these different aspects of contact center operation under one umbrella. So that is makes it quite a unique offering, right? Then when we are building the solution, the whole idea is that how do we again create personalized communications and how do we derive meaningful insights from these communications for further improvement. Our mission and our vision has put us into a stage where we are, as I said, we are 9-time leaders in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, right? Consistently. So we have not only had the vision, we have also executed on it very successfully. That talks about where we are and where do we stand in terms of in the market and the competition. Now, recently again on the same, on our entire part of how do we serve the customers better and support the customers better, we've had partnership with Salesforce, right? And what we have launched is a solution which is called CX Cloud by Genesys and Salesforce, which is a unified artificial intelligence powered customer experience system and customer relationship management solution, which has been brought in by both Salesforce and Genesys. And we've been able to do it primarily because, one, our solution is completely born in cloud. And that's a major difference, Tanvi, as compared to other systems where we have witnessed, that there could be a conventional on-premise system which is hosted in a cloud setup versus something which is natively built for cloud. When something is built natively for the cloud, the intrinsic behavior of cloud, which is flexibility, scalability, that comes in by default, and that's what we have built on. Security, scalability, and flexibility are the three paramounts which come intrinsically with Genesys Cloud. And then we have built an all-in-one platform which caters to every aspect of contact center operation. It is AI powered. We have our own AI engines with support for that. We also have strategic partners, which are the biggest names in artificial intelligence industry, which are available for integration with Genesys, and we have a history of being a trusted partner to our customers. I mean, just to give you a few numbers at this point of time, we support almost about 45 million interactions per day. We have more than 5,000 customers worldwide, and if I talk about the agent base, I think we've got more than a million global users for Genesys Cloud at this point of time. So that obviously tells a lot about where we are and the trust that we carry within our customers.
That's extremely impressive. So, on a final note, I would like to ask you one thing. Do you have a piece of advice
Sure.
to share for the young entrepreneurs or people who are like building something from scratch, like what kind of culture they should promote? Because somehow we are moving in a direction where AI is really important, but AI is somehow a replication of human intelligence and human consciousness. So, what is that piece of advice that you would like to give us?
All right. There's only one thing that I would like to say to anybody who's starting off is like keep your goals. You should have clear goals, right? If it is keep for a customer, I'm assuming that you're talking about any organization which has a large customer base, or they got to be, while they have to be customer centric, they got to be employee focused as well. Because please understand, without happy employees, getting to great customer service would not be possible. That's part one. Second is artificial intelligence definitely has a lot of potential. We agree, we understand there is a lot of use cases, there are a lot of things which wouldn't have been possible earlier, which is now possible with AI, right? It takes away, let's say, the very need to remember things. It takes away mundanity of lot many things. But it cannot take away the human intelligence itself, the power to create, right? That is something which is very novel to what human intelligence can do. AI would be able to create what has already been created. That's the basis of it, right? So respect that and utilize both of the intelligences, human and artificial, judiciously. That's what I'd like to add away.
So, basically, empathy is the key.
Of course, empathy is the key. Empathy is the key.
Yes, so that was all, Aditya. Thank you so much for sharing wonderful insights with us.
Thanks a lot, Tanvi. Thank you very much.
It was wonderful to have you here. And for our viewers, stay tuned for more such episodes and intriguing talks. So, yeah, bye bye.
Thank you.